Hey, it's Jordan with TYT Politics, and here with a gentleman named David. You've been involved with this pipeline fight for probably at this point, what, a few years?
Yeah, it's been over 2 years. So I've been basically since the very beginning. We had caught wind of the project in a small newspaper article, kind of leaked the story just a little bit, and so I started doing some research online, and we discovered the RFP, the request for proposals, and it showed in that request the proposed route for the pipeline, and it was all in coordinates. So I plotted it out in GIS and produced a map, and the map was alarming because it cut right through the heart of the Texas Big Bend. And so I sent that map out to area media, and that basically launched the opposition campaign.
For people who don't know, because I've heard of Big Bend before, but I don't know all the natural, natural beauty there and what's there. What's at threat in the Big Bend region by this pipeline?
Well, the Texas Big Bend is basically the last best place in Texas. It's the most ecologically intact. It's the most physiographically, beautiful area that we have in the state, and it's the most untouched part of the state. And so, this is also where we happen to have the vast majority of our public lands are down here. Big Bend National Park, Big Bend Ranch State Park. And so it's basically a real gem. It's a true kind of a crown jewel of the state. And so, with that being said, you would think that we would want to protect that, and the state would have an interest in protecting it. And I think a lot of us felt that we were probably immune to that because people would recognize that, and we were wrong. But that's what we stand to lose. We're losing, this ecological integrity, and even more than that, the spirit of the place, the spirit of the Big Bend, the feeling that it evokes in people of freedom and vast expanses of unspoiled land. It's kind of we're losing that at an alarming rate all over the country, all over the world. In fact, wild places are disappearing. And this is just, many of us feel, a place that we just can't afford to lose.
And how close is the pipeline to Big Bend? Is any of it overground, or is it all underground there?
Well, the Big Bend is the whole region. Big Bend National Park, of course, is a protected area, and it's the pipeline's not running anywhere close to the national park. It's running much closer to the state park. But in fact, it's only about 4 or 5 miles away from the Chinati State Natural Area. So it is running very close to some very important public lands that we do have. But the bigger concern is that the Big Bend bioregion, we'll call it, it's the greater Big Bend area that encompasses not just those two pieces of, or three pieces of very important public land, but it encompasses vast areas of desert grasslands and mountain islands that all, work together as an ecosystem. And so you're talking about an intact ecological system, a whole bioregion. And that's what we're protecting. That's what we're trying to fight for, because this pipeline is basically cut through the heart of that bioregion, that greater ecological system. And it's an affront in and of itself, but we're also very, very concerned. I think even more concerned in the fact that this sets a terrible precedent for oil and gas industry getting a toehold in the Big Bend, and that's what we're really alarmed about.
And obviously, I was just in North Dakota. Not a lot of cowboys there, to be honest. But here, most of the people that are being affected by this are normally pro oil and gas. I'm, hoping to speak with some landowners while I'm here. Can you kind of talk about the evolution you've seen and a lot of the people involved with this when they're realizing, wow, the normal politicians we support who say are anti-big government are just taking people's land, and there's really no public good that's been explained for this. The real public good is only for Kelsey Warren and a couple billionaires.
Yeah, that's very much true, and I think a lot of people have had to re-examine their belief systems and their political affiliations with regard to this pipeline because, yeah, conservative Republicans are typically the ones that support this kind of thing, this kind of infrastructure, and the oil and gas industry in general. There are a lot of landowners that we have. One that I'm in particular contact with, and have been since the beginning. They've been very involved in the opposition. who, she says, she frankly admits she was raised in the oil patch. She's always been a supporter of oil and gas. But this has led her to re-examine everything she's ever known, everything she's believed in, because of the way these guys do business. So it's really, I think, been an eye-opener for a lot of people and changed their minds about that. I don't know how far-reaching that's gone, in terms of their larger political belief systems, but I think it's definitely shook them up and led to a re-examination of their thoughts.
And, obviously I keep bringing up North Dakota because that's been the biggest thing in the national spotlight. It's very evident what the risks are there. It's a main water source, 18 million people affected. Can you kind of talk about the risks here? We're about at the halfway point of where the pipeline is. It's going through Mexico. If there's spills, what areas and are there water sources at play here? What if there's a spill? What's the danger to the environment?
Well, if there's a spill, of course, this is a natural gas pipeline. So
Excuse me, not what if when there's a spill.
when there's a spill, exactly, that's exactly right. It's inevitable with pipelines that there will be a leak. And this, of course, is a natural gas pipeline. So the main concern that we have is explosion. An explosion of a gas line at this of this size would be catastrophic. The explosion itself could obliterate houses. If there's anyone close within 100, 200 yards, it's going to just incinerate it. But I think our greater fear is related to the wildlands, the grassland wildfires rather, that are likely to occur from such an explosion. Out here, we don't have a huge firefighting force, and we just don't have the equipment and the personnel to deal with those kind of catastrophes. And it could, it could burn whole towns down. It could certainly burn, ranches up, the whole countryside. So fire's a real concern. Of course, fire is a concern everywhere, but when you're living in a desert grassland, it's even greater concern for sure.
And I find it interesting because I saw the CEO of Energy Transfer Partners on PBS a few weeks ago when he was talking about North Dakota. Oh, this is state-of-the-art new steel pipe. Chances of any type of spill or leak is very minuscule. Obviously, it's different because this is natural gas, like you said, but they were just bought by Sunoco Logistics, who literally tops the charts of crude oil spills in the United States of America. So moving to Texas, there's not a lot of mechanisms in place for safety. There's not a lot of environmental regulations in the first place. So can you kind of talk about, for people who don't know Texas, I literally flew down to Midland. All I saw was billboards for oil and gas. So this is oil and gas country. But in terms of an explosion or anything like that, people are pretty much at the whim of this oil company because there's not a lot of safeguards.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And they put in the pipe and then they go away, and we're left with our own, basically our own people to fight the fires and fight any catastrophes that occur. They say that they would send personnel, that they would help us out, but that's all unknowns. There's no reason for us to trust these guys. They have lied to us at every turn. They have been disingenuous. They have, just not been good actors at all. So there's just absolutely no reason to trust them. And, Texas is oil and gas country. There's no doubt about it. In Midland, Odessa is right smack dab in the Permian Basin, which is sort of, ground zero for the oil and gas industry in the state. And despite the fact that it's close, the Big Bend has always been spared that. And that's the main thing about this, is we have never had this kind of thing occur in the region. And so that's why it's so incredibly alarming to us. That's just one thing. There's a whole array of issues, and some of them overlap with those of DAPL. We're all concerned about leaks. We're concerned about fires and explosions and accidents that could occur. But there's a lot of other concerns related to this pipeline. And one is that we're going to be sending our fracked gas to Mexico, natural gas that we bear the brunt of the environmental consequences of it. And then we're sending that gas to Mexico to probably be liquefied and shipped to Asia. And so where's that national security element in that? If we're suffering these, egregious environmental consequences, shouldn't we be, at least gaining some benefit from it?
And how does that make us energy independent if we're literally just spinning this off. How does that help our domestic use?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it's just a ruse. You know, it's just to make the fat cats fatter. That's all there. That's all. You know, that's all there is to it.
Well, I think that's also kind of underneath this story, Standing Rock as well. But Josh Fox, he's a great documentarian. He described it as we're living in an oligarchy, where it's essentially, a sales job about we need this for energy independence. Anybody who stands against it is I've heard terrorists and this and that, but it's out in the open. It's transparent that this is not for domestic use. Can you explain to me how, in a state like Texas, I understand, government officials kind of bend over backwards for oil and gas. What is the public good that's been described here? I spoke with Coyne Gibson. He didn't know. What is the rationale for public good here?
Yeah, it's interesting. What they try to promote as being the public good is this sort of vague idea of, really they don't make a good case for it. But the idea is what they try to say is that this is going to help us financially. They say us. What they really mean is them. But they think that by bringing that money into Texas from Mexico or Asia or wherever it comes from is going to help everybody. I guess it's the old trickle-down theory. But
Does it help the landowners whose homes are now devalued?
absolutely not. No. That's the real truth of it. Is that there are a lot of people who are being severely injured by this, either monetarily or their lives are being put at risk. And I mean, that's not to even mention the emotional turmoil that these people are going through, which is horrific. It really is. We feel like we're under assault. It feels very much like being, in a war zone, under assault. And this was a peaceful place, really largely a peaceful place, before we were descended upon by pipeliners. And now it just feels like, I don't even know the place anymore. It doesn't feel like home. It doesn't feel safe to me. So we don't talk about that much, but the emotional impacts are significant, and I see them most strongly with the landowners. It hurts them. It really affects them deeply.